The dying star cast a dim red glow across empty space. Its gravity well pulled at everything near, swallowing light and hope alike. In the shadows of drifting rock and frozen dust, the alien fleet waited. Their ships, long and sharp like blades, hovered silent. They had come to hunt humans. Commander Threx watched the scanners, his eyes fixed on a single green dot. A small human freighter, old and slow, drifting too close to the star. Threx licked his lips, excitement mixing with contempt. Humans, he thought, were clever but reckless. This one had wandered into the perfect place to die. The ambush was simple. 3 raider ships hidden behind asteroids, 2 heavy cruisers waiting in deeper orbit, ready to crush any escape. And above them all, Threx's own flagship, the Harrow, carrying weapons strong enough to tear steel apart. He whispered to himself, "Humans think they are predators. Today they learn fear." On board the Harrow, crew members hissed and clicked, in their native tongue, watching as the human freighter drifted closer to the kill zone. Engines glowed dimly, barely alive. Power readings looked weak, just as they hoped. Perfect prey. "Now," Threx ordered. The 3 raiders moved first, emerging from the shadows and locking onto the freighter. Alarms flashed on their screens. Weapons primed. In seconds, the freighter should have been shredded, but nothing happened. The freighter didn't fire back. It didn't run. It didn't even change course. It simply vanished. Threx blinked, scales tightening in shock. He barked at his officers. "Find them. Scan everything." But scanners showed nothing. No jump signature, no cloaking field, just cold, empty space. The freighter was gone. A moment later, something else disappeared. A raider ship, then another. Static burst across communication lines. Screams echoed before they cut to silence. Threx's blood ran cold. "Report," he roared. One last raider captain answered, voice shaking. "They're here. Humans are here. We can't see them." Static swallowed the words. Then silence. The green dots vanished from Threx's screen, leaving only the heavy cruisers and his flagship. He stared at the empty space where his hunters had been, realizing too late. They had not been hunters. They had been bait. In the darkness, unseen ships moved. Human ships. Black as space itself, hulls shaped to drink light, absorbing every signal. They had waited patiently, letting the aliens think they controlled the battlefield. Now they struck. Aboard. The human stealth corvette Knight's Whisper, Captain Keller watched calmly as enemy ships died one by one. His voice was quiet, controlled. "Target next cruiser. Disable engines first." Knight's Whisper fired invisible weapons. Gravitic torpedoes that warped space for a split second, tearing metal apart without a sound. One alien cruiser's engines exploded. Lights blinked out. The massive ship drifted powerless, gravity well dragging it toward the dying star. On the Harrow, Threx's crew panicked. They fired wildly into empty space, beams cutting through darkness but hitting nothing. Sensors screamed false readings. Shadows looked like ships. Noise drowned out real signals. Another human corvette, Silent Edge, joined the hunt. Together, the 2 ships danced unseen around the remaining alien cruiser. Precision strikes hit weapon mounts and power conduits. The cruiser tried to run, engines flaring bright, but its lights died moments later. Commander Threx felt fear deep in his chest. He had hunted humans for years, but never faced them like this. And they weren't running. They were circling, he whispered, barely louder than a breath. "They're hunting us." A cold realization spread among the Harrow's bridge crew. They had set the perfect trap and humans had walked in willingly, knowing exactly what waited. In the shadows beyond scanner range, Knight's Whisper and Silent Edge exchanged short, encrypted signals. Keller's second in command, Lieutenant Park asked, "Shall we finish the flagship?" Keller's eyes stayed on the Harrow silhouette, red light of the dying star reflecting from its hull. He said softly, "Let them know who truly hunts in the dark." On board the Harrow, alarms blared. Threx ordered all power to shields. Scan, fire everywhere. he shouted, but even he knew it was hopeless. They were blind. Every blast of energy from their own weapons made them more visible, while the humans remained cold and silent. A sudden jolt shook the harrow. Bridge lights flickered. "We're hit!" an officer screamed. "How? Where?" Threx demanded, but no answer came. Another impact. Battle screeched. Systems died across the ship. Life support flickered dangerously. Daren't. The sound he feared most. Silence. Broken only by his crew's shallow breathing, Knight's whisper drifted closer, almost kissing the harrow's hull. Keller studied the enemy flagship. "Disable, don't destroy," he ordered. "They need to understand." Torpedoes struck the harrow's engines and shield emitters, careful not to rupture the core. Power dropped to emergency levels. Screens blinked, then faded. The great predator of Threx's fleet floated powerless, a wounded beast in a cold sea, in the dim, emergency light. Threx stared at the static-filled screen, sweat running down his scales. His crew waited, too terrified to speak. Outside nothing moved, but they all felt it. Humans were there, unseen but close, watching. Then, without warning, a human voice crackled through the ship's speakers. Calm, steady, cold. "You set a trap for us," the voice said. "You failed." The bridge fell silent. Threx's heart pounded. The voice continued. "You thought we were prey? Now you see the truth. We hunted you instead." A cold realization spread among the crew. They were alive only because the humans allowed it. "Run home," the voice ordered. "Tell your leaders what you saw. Humans don't fear the dark. We own it." Silence returned. The invisible ships slipped away, vanishing like mist in morning sun. Minutes passed before Threx dared speak. "Status?" he rasped. "Engines disabled. Weapons offline," an officer replied, voice shaking. "Enemy ships gone." Threx felt weakness in his limbs. Never in all his hunts had he been so powerless. He had seen death, but this was worse. Defeat, without understanding how it happened, far behind them. The dying star's gravity finally claimed the drifting alien cruiser. On the bridge of Night's Whisper, Keller watched its destruction in silence. "They'll fear us now, Park," said. Keller nodded. "Not enough. They must understand. We're prey once on Earth. We learned. We became hunters. Out here, nothing changes that." Silent Edge reported in. "Mission complete, 0 casualties." Human ships melted away into the void, unseen and unheard. Only rumors and wreckage would tell the story. As the Harrow limped back toward alien space, its crew broken and afraid, Threx knew the truth. They had come to prove humans were weak prey. Instead, they proved something else entirely. Humans were the galaxy's apex predators, far across the darkness. Secret human. Command ships, analysts gathered data, preparing for the next encounter. They listened to intercepted alien transmissions, fear, confusion, whispers of dark hunters. They smiled grimly. It was working. The trap had failed. Not because it was poorly built, but because the real hunters had known it was coming. They had let it close around them, only to break it from within. And now, in the shadows, humans waited for the next hunt. The alien fleet limped home, battered and humiliated. The Harrow, once feared across the sector, moved slowly on emergency power. Inside, the silence of the bridge felt heavier than gravity. Commander Threx sat in his chair, eyes hollow, scales dulled from fear and exhaustion. Around him, officers whispered to each other, afraid to speak too loudly. They had hunted humans and failed. Worse, they had been hunted instead. The memory of human voices echoing through the ship haunted them all. Threx tried to focus on repairs, but every flicker of light made his heart jump. Every shadow on the screen looked like a hidden human ship. Other captains in the fleet felt the same fear. One captain, Valen, stayed awake for days, eyes bloodshot, hands shaking at every signal on the radar. His crew avoided him, whispering behind his back that the humans had cursed him. In truth, he cursed himself with fear. A message came from High Command. "Return to base and report." But Threx hesitated. If he returned and admitted defeat, his honor would be gone. But if he lied, he would be executed. His mind turned in circles, always coming back to the same thought. Humans were supposed to be prey, far behind them, drifting. In cold space, escape pods floated silently. Some were alien pods, launched in panic when the battle turned. Others, hidden among them, were human decoys. Small black capsules, cold and silent, containing nothing but data cores and coded messages. A salvage ship named Skara found one of these pods. Curious, the Scarus crew pulled it into the cargo bay. They gathered around as engineers opened the hatch. Inside they found a single device, a metal sphere, smooth and black, with one blinking red light. Captain Salak, tall and proud, ordered them to connect it to the ship's system, find out what humans left behind, he barked. A young technician hesitated. Sir, maybe it's dangerous. Solek's eyes narrowed. Humans are weak prey. They can't harm us now. Do it. Technician swallowed fear and obeyed. Wires connected, power flowed. The red light turned green. A soft hum filled the bay. Then a voice spoke, deep and calm. Predator watches you. Crew members froze. They looked at each other, confusion mixing with dread. The voice repeated, Predator watches you, little hunter. Salak shouted, Turn it off. But nothing happened. The voice spoke again, slower this time. Your trap failed. You are prey now? The technician ripped the cables out. The device went dark, but the words stayed in their minds. Some crew members refused to return to their posts. Rumor spread. Humans were sending messages from the dark, always watching. Meanwhile, in deep space, Night's Whisper and Silent Edge regrouped near a hidden human outpost. Inside the small command center, officers reviewed data from the last mission. Captain Keller studied alien transmissions filled with panic. Lieutenant Park read aloud from one message. They appeared from nowhere. You couldn't see them. They hunted us. We lost everything. Keller nodded. They are starting to understand. Fear is a weapon. Park looked uneasy. Do you think they will fight harder next time? Maybe, Keller said quietly. But fear makes hunters hesitate. And hesitation kills. At the same time, Alien High Command received the survivors' reports. Powerful leaders gathered around a large screen, watching footage from the Harrow's damaged systems, flashes of human ships barely visible, sudden blackouts, crew screaming before silence. One elder, covered in ceremonial scars, hissed, How? Did the humans do this? No one answered. They had studied humans for decades, short-lived, emotional, violent, but never this patient. This silent, this cold. Another leader suggested sending more ships, bigger fleets. Crush them with numbers, he declared. But the elder shook his head slowly. Numbers do not matter if our hunters fear the dark. Among the aliens, a few brave captains volunteered to find and destroy the human ships. They formed a new task force, fast raiders, advanced stealth sensors, elite warriors trained to fight without fear. One such captain was Draxel, young and ambitious. His ship, the Black Talon, carried the best equipment the aliens had. In secret, Draxel promised himself glory. I will bring back human wreckage, he told his crew, and they will know we are the true predators. Far away, the humans listened. Hidden satellites and stealth drones caught every word. Keller smiled grimly. Let him come, he whispered. The dark welcomes brave hunters. When Black Talon entered the asteroid field near the old battlefield, they moved carefully. Draxel ordered all systems to minimum power, weapons ready. Sensors sweeping every shadow. Hours passed. Nothing happened. Then, at the edge of their sensors, they found drifting escape pods. One looked different. Black metal, scorched as if by battle. Draxel's second-in-command, Circa, advised caution. It could be another trap, she warned. Draxel's pride refused to listen. Bring it in. We will learn their secrets. Brought the pod into the cargo bay. A team of soldiers in heavy armor opened it carefully. Inside they found a single human helmet, cracked and burned. Dash, with a small device attached. It's just a helmet, one soldier muttered. But the device activated. A tiny red light blinked, then a whisper, almost too quiet to hear. "Predator watches you." The soldiers stepped back, rifles raised. The whisper grew louder, repeating the words again and again. "Predator watches you." Draxel ordered, "Scan it, find out what it is." The scanners found no weapon, no virus, just a simple speaker. And a recording. But the message was enough. In the silence of deep space, even brave hearts trembled. Suddenly alarms blared. Black Talon's sensors picked up faint heat signatures, moving fast. "Too fast!" Draxel shouted. "Shields, prepare to fire!" But the heat signatures vanished before weapons could lock on. Crew members held their breath, eyes wide, waiting for the unseen strike. Nothing came. Minutes felt like hours. Sweat dripped from alien brows, scales glistening under red warning lights. Then, across the comm system, a human voice spoke. Calm, cold, and close. "Run home, little hunter. We see you." Fear exploded in the crew. Some shouted, some froze. Circa forced herself to speak. "We must retreat." Draxel hesitated. His pride battled his fear. But the memory of the last battle, of ships dying unseen, of humans whispering from the dark, weighed heavily. "Retreat," he ordered at last. Black Talon turned away, engines burning bright, but as they fled, something followed. On sensors. Brief flickers, small, fast objects matching their course, always just out of reach. Draxel dared not stop to fight. He realized too late that fear had become their prison. Back at the human outpost, Captain Keller watched the alien ship flee. "They ran," Park noted softly. "They will keep running," Keller replied, "until they learn they can't hunt." "What they cannot see," Park asked. "What if they bring bigger fleets, and will teach them fear on a bigger scale?" Keller said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were hard. On Black Talon, as they reached safe space, Draxel made his report. His voice trembled as he spoke of the whispers, the unseen hunters, the hopelessness of fighting shadows. Alien High Command listened. In silence, the elder with scars finally spoke. "We tried to hunt humans. Instead, we taught them how to hunt us better." Rumors spread among alien fleets, whispers of black ships, silent weapons, voices that spoke from nowhere. Some called humans dark hunters. Others used an older word, apex. In mess halls and training rooms, alien soldiers shared stories of human tactics, patience, silence, and sudden violence. Even the bravest began to glance at shadows and wonder if humans watched. Meanwhile, human ships stayed hidden. Keller knew. The real battle had begun not of guns and missiles, but of minds. Fear could break even the strongest enemy. In hidden command rooms, human analysts listened to alien fear. They recorded every message, every rumor. Fear spread faster than any ship could fly, in the cold darkness of space, unseen by friend or foe. Night's whisper drifted silently, its crew watching and waiting. They knew the truth. Once, on a small, blue planet, humans had been prey. But they learned, they adapted, and in the vast, silent sea between stars, they had become the galaxy's apex predators. The interrogation room smelled of oil and burned metal. Dim yellow lights flickered on the ceiling. Alien guards stood near the walls, tense and silent. At the center sat a human, hands bound in cold iron cuffs. His eyes were calm, almost bored, as if he waited for something amusing. Across from him stood Captain Varn, the interrogator. His scales shimmered a pale green under the weak light. He had questioned many prisoners before, but never a human, never one captured alive. Outside the room, the alien ship floated near a cold moon, away from patrol routes. The Black Talon's mission had failed, but this single prisoner felt like a small victory. Varn hoped to learn something, anything, too. Help his people fight the humans. He cleared his throat, forcing confidence into his voice. "State your name and rank," he ordered. The human looked up slowly. His eyes were dark, tired but steady. "Why?" he asked. "Because Varen said, it will help you live longer." A small smile touched the human's lips. No, it won't. Varn felt heat rise in his chest, a mix of anger and discomfort. Tell me your rank. Call me Gray, the human said. It's close enough. Varn tapped a metal rod against the table, the sound sharp in the quiet room. We know your people attacked our fleet. We know you hide in the shadows. Tell me where your ships are. Gray tilted his head slightly. You think you're the hunter? He said softly. We are hunters, Varn snapped. Humans are nothing but prey with guns. Gray's eyes stayed on Varn, calm, steady. Do you know what happens to prey that's hunted too long? He asked. Varn didn't answer. They learn to hunt back, Gray whispered. The words hung in the air like smoke. For a moment, Varn felt his scales tighten, a chill crawling down his back. He tried to shake it off. Do you think your tricks frighten us? Varn asked, voice louder now. They should, Gray replied. Varn slammed his fist on the table. Where are your ships? Gray's smile grew just a little, closer than you think. Varn's eyes flicked to the guards, who shifted uneasily. The silence felt heavy, pressing on all of them. Gray leaned forward, chains clinking softly. You came to hunt us in the dark, he said. And now you're afraid of the dark itself. Outside the room, the ship's corridor was dim and narrow. Crew members walked quickly, avoiding eye contact. Since the last battle, everyone jumped at small noises. A falling tool. A flickering light. Even whispers felt dangerous at the end. Of the corridor, Circa, the second-in-command from the Black Talon, spoke quietly with another officer. He doesn't look dangerous, the officer said. That's what makes him dangerous, Circa replied. Her eyes returned to the closed door. He doesn't need to fight us. His words alone bring fear. Inside the room, Varn took a breath, trying to steady his voice. Do you know why you're alive? Gray's eyebrows lifted, amused. 'Cause you think you can break me, he guessed. No, Varn said. So I want you to see what happens when we stop being merciful. Gray's face grew serious, but the calm never left his eyes. Mercy? Is that what you call burning colonies? He asked. Varn hesitated. They were military outposts. They were homes, Gray said quietly. Families, children, you. Hunted us first, and you did it without fear. Varn opened his mouth to reply, but the words caught in his throat. Images came to mind. Human stations burning, escape pods drifting in silence, children's voices lost in static. The reports had called them acceptable losses. Saying it aloud now felt wrong. Gray watched him. Now he continued. Voice soft. You've met us in the dark. Now you see who really belongs there. A sudden alarm echoed through the ship. Guards shifted, gripping their rifles tighter. Varn's communicator buzzed. A voice whispered urgently, Sir, unknown. Signal detected near the moon. Fast. Then it vanished. Varn tried to hide his fear. It's nothing, he told Gray. Gray's smile returned. Is it? He asked. In the command center, red warning lights painted the walls. Officers leaned over screens, searching for the phantom signal. One whispered, Could it be them? The black ships? No one answered Captain Draxel. Back on duty, despite the last mission's failure, clenched his teeth. Prepare weapons. Scan every shadow, he ordered. Outside, the cold moon reflected pale light on the ship's hull. Far beyond, hidden in darkness, human ships waited. They listened. They watched. In the interrogation room, Gray closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, he spoke quietly. Do you know what makes humans different from other prey? He asked. Varn didn't answer. We remember fear, Gray said. And then we learn from it. We change it. We turn it into something else. Varn's voice cracked. What? Gray's eyes locked onto his. Hunger, anger, and finally, the will to hunt back. Outside the ship, Knight's whisper drifted silently, black hole invisible against the void. Captain Keller watched the alien ship. On his screen, it took one of ours, he said softly. Lieutenant Park nodded. Orders? We're not here to rescue him, Keller said. His face hardened. We're here to remind them why they fear us. Inside the alien command center, an officer called out, voice shaking, new signal. It's gone again. Where? Draxel demanded. Everywhere. Nowhere, the officer replied. I can't lock on. Draxel's hands curled into fists. He remembered the whispers, the shadows that killed without being seen. His tail twitched in fear. But he forced himself to stand tall, maintain readiness. He barked. In the interrogation room, Gray sensed the shift in the air. The guards were sweating, scales wet and glistening. Varn tried to keep control, but his voice was softer now. Why do you hide? He demanded. Why not fight us openly? Gray's expression stayed calm. 'Cause fear doesn't work in sunlight, he said. It needs shadows. The words felt like cold water down Varn's back. Gray continued, softer still. You think you're afraid of us, but it's worse. You're afraid of the dark because you know we're there. Another alarm echoed, this time louder, urgent. Varn turned to the guards. Find out what's happening. Outside, Knight's whisper moved closer. Human weapons armed, silent, and invisible. They didn't need to fire yet. The fear was already inside the alien ship, growing stronger every second. Inside, Varn stepped closer to Gray, his voice shaking despite himself. What do you want from us? He asked. Gray's eyes met his. I want you to remember this feeling, he said softly. The helplessness. The fear you can't escape. Because that's what you gave us when you hunted us first. Varn swallowed. And if we stop? Gray paused. Then maybe the darkness will forget you, he whispered. The door opened suddenly. Circa entered, her face pale. Captain Enemy. Ships detected. Unknown number. Close range. They're gone now. Varn's scales turned even paler. He turned back to Gray. Are they here for you? Gray said nothing. His eyes told the truth. In the command center, Draxel ordered, all weapons to fire into the darkness. Beams of energy lit up space, bright and furious. Oh, but they hit nothing. The human ships stayed hidden, silent observers in the night. Keller watched the alien ships' wild firing. They're afraid, Park said quietly. That's enough for now, Keller replied. Let's vanish. But Knight's whisper and its sister ship powered down engines, sinking back into perfect darkness. Alien sensors showed empty space again. In the interrogation room, Varn's communicator buzzed. Unknown contacts gone, Captain, a voice reported, trembling. We don't know where. Gray leaned back in his chair. Now you understand, he said softly. Varn stared at him, realization sinking deep into his mind. The humans weren't fighting a war for territory or glory. They were teaching a lesson written in fear. You can't win like this, Varn whispered. Fear alone can't win a war. Gray's eyes darkened. No, but it can stop you from starting the next one. Outside. The alien ship floated near the cold moon, wounded pride hidden behind metal walls. Inside, the seeds of doubt and fear had taken root. Gray sat silently. Chains cold against his skin, but his eyes calm and unbroken. He had been caught. Yes, but it didn't matter. The humans were not prey anymore. They had become the hunters. Far away, in the dark void, human ships drifted silently, waiting for the next hunt, and deep inside every alien who had heard the human's voice. A single thought whispered again and again, they're watching us. The asteroid field was wide and silent, frozen rocks drifting in darkness. Pale starlight barely touched the sharp edges of spinning stone. For most, it was just another dead place in space. But for the aliens, it was where they would try to hunt the humans again. They called it Operation Dark Spear, an elite force of 10 ships, each carrying the best sensors, stealth detectors, and warriors trained to fight without fear. They had new orders: track the black human ships, corner them, destroy them before they vanished again. At the center of this force was the cruiser Scourge of Dawn, its hull painted black with dark red symbols, a warning to any who saw it. Captain Sarek stood on the bridge, tall and cold-eyed. His scales were black, like old iron, and scars crossed his face. He had seen dozens of battles and lost none. He believed fear could be defeated by discipline. He looked around at his crew, sensing their quiet fear. "We are hunters," he told. Them, voice hard as stone. "Humans bleed. Humans die. Remember that?" The words seemed to calm them. For a moment, their plan was simple. Spread out in small groups. Keep scanners at maximum power, move slowly, and never panic. In theory, it should work. In practice, shadows had a power no machine could see, far beyond them. Hidden in the deepest shadows, the human Corvette Knight's Whisper watched silently. Its black hull blended into the asteroid field, becoming just another drifting rock. Inside, Captain Keller observed the alien ships. His face was calm, eyes cold. "They're bringing new toys," Lieutenant Park said, scanning the enemy ships. "New sensors, heat, gravity, even exotic particle detectors." Keller nodded. "They still won't see us. Fear makes them blind." Knight's Whisper moved carefully, engines at lowest power drifting between giant stones. Every turn was planned. Every movement slow, silent, and precise. The aliens spread through the field, hunted shadows. The Scourge of Dawn moved steadily, its scanners humming. On one screen, small dots glowed faintly, heat from asteroids warmed by ancient starlight. The crew checked each signal, each flicker, but they saw nothing alive. Then something changed. On one ship, the Blade of Tomorrow, a young officer shouted, "I have a contact." Faint, moving slow. Captain Jurel, in command of the Blade, leaned closer. His heart beat faster. "Lock weapons. Move to intercept," he ordered. The signal flickered, moving among drifting rocks. The ship turned, engines firing, weapons ready, but as they approached, the signal vanished. "Where did it go?" Jurel demanded. "Lost it, sir," the officer replied, voice shaking. Jurel's scales grew, pale. "Spread scanners. Find it again." They scanned every stone, every flicker of heat. Nothing. Behind them, unseen. Knight's Whisper drifted closer. In the command center of the Scourge of Dawn, Captain Sarek listened to reports from across the fleet. Contacts gone, shadows empty. His jaw tightened. "Keep hunting," he ordered. "They must be here." In the darkness, another human ship joined the hunt. The Silent Edge, its black hull cold as ice. Inside, Captain Danner whispered to her crew, "They're getting nervous. Watch for mistakes." Silent Edge moved carefully, staying in the blind. Spots of alien sensors, never making heat, never sending signals. On the Blade of Tomorrow, the crew waited tensely. Every rock seemed to hide an enemy. Small whispers passed between them. Some spoke of human ghosts, of voices in the dark. One young officer rubbed a small charm on his wrist, an old family symbol for courage. Suddenly, alarms blared.
"Our new contact."
"Close," the officer shouted. Jural turned, eyes wide. "Where?" "Right behind us." They turned cameras to look, but saw nothing. Just black space and drifting stone. Before they could react, something struck. A sudden shock rocked the ship. Lights flickered, power dipped. Sparks rained from control panels. "We've been hit." An engineer shouted. "By what?" Jurel demanded. "No idea." Outside, Silent Edge slipped away into darkness. The strike was surgical. A small gravitic torpedo, crushing part of the enemy ship's main heat exchanger. Not enough to destroy. Just enough to frighten. On board the Blade, panic spread. Some crew shouted for help. Others froze. Jurel's voice cracked as he shouted, "Hold together! Find them! Fire into the shadows!" Laser beams shot into empty space, lighting asteroids. With pale red light, rocks shattered, dust floated, but the humans were gone. In the command center of the Scourge of Dawn, Captain Sarek heard the reports. Minor damage, no casualties, but the crew is panicking, an officer said. Sarek's teeth clenched. "Order them to hold position." Remind them. Panic is death. At that moment, Sarek's own ship felt a tremor. Small, almost nothing, but enough for everyone to feel. "Report," Sarek snapped. "Nothing on scanners." A technician replied. Sarek's eyes narrowed. "They're here," he whispered. Night's whisper drifted slowly behind the scourge of dawn, engines silent, hull cold. Captain Keller watched the alien ship fill his screen. "They're disciplined," he murmured. From the inside, Park asked, "Attack now?" "Get," Keller said. "Wait." Across the asteroid field, alien ships moved like nervous animals, firing into shadows, scanning again and again. Their strongest weapon confidence was already gone. In one ship, the Fang of the Void, a sensor officer, stared at a screen, sweat dripping from his scales. He saw a flicker, a heat spike, almost nothing. His mouth opened to call the captain. Then the lights died. The crew shouted in terror. Emergency lights flickered, painting faces red. Outside, Silent Edge moved away, leaving confusion behind. Engines offline. Weapons offline. A voice screamed. The captain of the Fang pounded his fist on the chair. "Get them back now." Minutes felt like hours. Finally, power returned, but the damage was done. The crew was shaking, some too afraid to speak. In the scourge of dawn, Captain Sarek listened to the reports. Ships damaged, crews in panic. No enemy in sight. He realized the truth. They were losing without a single real battle. He forced himself to speak calmly. "We are hunters," he repeated to his crew. "Fear is an illusion. Fight it." But his own hands were trembling. Far away in the cold void, Captain Keller watched through sensors. "They're breaking," he whispered. Silent Edge joined. Night's whisper again, hidden in darkness. Captain Danner spoke quietly. "We could finish them," she said. "Not yet," Keller replied. "Let them feel hunted longer. Let them tell the others." The humans didn't want total destruction. They wanted fear to spread. A slow poison reaching every alien ship. Hours passed. Alien crews stayed on high alert, eyes burning from no sleep. Every signal felt like death. Every silence felt worse. On the blade of tomorrow, a young officer finally broke. He whispered to his captain, "What if they're always there? What if we can't escape?" Captain Jurl tried to answer, but the words wouldn't come. In the command center of the Scourge of Dawn, Sarek knew they had failed. The mission to hunt humans had turned into a mission to survive them. He sent a message to High Command. Enemy. Invisible. Crews losing discipline. Fear stronger than weapons. Request orders. High Command answered coldly. "Return to base. We will plan again." Night's whisper and Silent Edge turned away, vanishing into deeper shadows. Mission complete. Captain Keller spoke softly to his crew. He gave them a lesson, he said. "Fear isn't what kills. Panic is." Park nodded, "And they'll carry that panic home." "Yes," Keller agreed, "and it will spread." The Scourge of Dawn, Sarek watched the silent asteroid field on his screen. No more signals, no more attacks, just empty rocks. But the silence felt worse than any battle, he realized. Finally, what the humans had done, turned darkness into a weapon, had become the galaxy's silent shadows. And worse, everyone knew it now. The great fleet gathered near the dying blue star. Hundreds of alien ships floated in tight formation, heavy dreadnoughts, armored cruisers, fast attack vessels. Their hulls reflected cold starlight like sharp metal teeth. Flags of war hung on the command ships. Symbols of ancient victories painted proudly on steel. Inside the flagship, the Wrath of Suns, Admiral Cavor stood tall among his officers. His scales were dark gold, polished and proud, and his eyes burned. With old anger, he had seen the panic spreading among alien fleets since the failed hunts. He had heard the whispers of dark hunters and black ships, but Cavor refused to believe that a few human raiders could challenge the power of the Empire. "We lost because we fought in shadows," Cavor declared, voice echoing through the Grand Command Hall. "Today, we bring light to the darkness. They will not hide from us again." His words calmed the officers. Hundreds of ships, millions of tons of steel and weapons moved under his command. The fleet was so large that even if human ships struck, they could not stop them all, or so they believed. Across the fleet, crew members prepared for battle. Weapons charged, Engines roared quietly. Shields glowed with silent power. The Wrath of Suns, massive and old, carried more firepower than the entire human Black Fleet combined. In hidden places beyond the star's light, human eyes watched. Small black ships, silent and cold, drifted unseen. Among them was Night's Whisper, hidden behind an ancient asteroid scorched by centuries of solar storms. Captain Keller studied the enemy fleet on his screens. "They brought everything," Lieutenant Park said quietly. Her voice held no fear, only cold calculation. "They think numbers win wars," Keller replied, eyes never leaving the display. Park hesitated. "Do they?" Keller's voice dropped to a whisper. "Against prey, yes. But numbers don't stop the fear of shadows. Numbers can't save them from what they don't see." Across space, the human command ship Ashen Spear sent a brief, silent message. No voice, no light, just an encrypted pulse. Keller read it and nodded. "Prepare the package," he ordered, far above the alien fleet. Something old and heavy drifted in space, long rods of tungsten, each weighing thousands of tons, hidden in a silent orbit. They had no engines, no power, no signals, just cold metal waiting to fall. They were relics of humanity's early space wars. Forgotten weapons now returned to purpose. On board the Wrath of Suns, Admiral Cavor ordered the fleet forward. "Vance," he commanded, "burn them out." Engines ignited, and the great armada moved like a metal tide. The fleet scanners swept ahead, searching for black ships. But the humans were not there to fight in the way aliens expected. Night's Whisper drifted away. Engines low and cold, silent as death itself. Keller watched the screens. "Eye for the signal," he told his crew. Deep in the fleet, a young alien officer on the cruiser Flame of Dawn scanned space nervously. He whispered to himself, remembering stories of human whispers and shadows. His captain slapped him on the shoulder. "Stand tall," he barked. "They can't hide from this many eyes." But the young officer knew something the captain didn't. Shadows grow longer when the light grows stronger. At the heart of the fleet, Admiral Cavor felt victory close. "We will teach them fear," he said, "and we will erase the shame of our failures." Then the signal came. From hidden human satellites, a pulse of data triggered ancient computers. Cold tungsten rods, asleep for years, woke and listened. Tiny thrusters fired for seconds. It's just enough to change their path. Gravity did the rest. In the command center of the Wrath of Suns, a warning blinked on a side screen. "Unknown objects descending," an officer reported. "Show me," Cavor ordered, impatient. Small red dots appeared on the screen, hundreds of them, falling fast. "They're too small," Cavor said. "Destroy them." Alien ships fired beams of energy upward, brilliant lines of light crossing the dark. Some rods were shattered, fragments spinning off harmlessly, but most fell too fast. Tungsten, cold and silent, needed no warhead. Moving at tens of kilometers per second, it became pure force. The first rod struck a dreadnought. The ship's shields flared bright, then failed. The rod passed through decks and engines like a blade through water. The ship cracked apart, air and metal bursting into space. A moment later, more rods fell. Another dreadnought vanished in fire and steel. Smaller ships were torn apart instantly. Even near misses shattered hulls with shockwaves. On the Wrath of Suns, the deck shook. Lights flickered, alarms screamed. Officers shouted, voices raw with fear. Where did they come from? Cavor demanded. No one answered. The fleet, so proud, so strong, broke in moments. Fire burned in the darkness. Debris drifted among the stars, torn metal and lost lives. Night's Whisper drifted at the edge, unseen, watching. On the bridge, Keller's face stayed calm, but his eyes held a quiet sadness. They wanted a battle, he said softly. We gave them extinction instead. Park whispered. Some escaped. That was the point, Keller replied. Fear is useless if no one survives to remember. In the remains of the fleet, surviving ships ran. Engines burned hot, shields raised, but the humans didn't follow. The black ships stayed hidden, invisible hunters, Inside the Wrath of Suns, Admiral Cavour stared at the wreckage. His mouth was dry, scales pale. His voice barely came out. All this strength, he whispered. Destroyed by rocks. One officer dared to speak. They were waiting for us, Admiral. They knew where we would gather. The truth was simple and cold. Humans didn't need bigger ships or more guns. They used patience, calculation, and the ancient gravity of stars. Cavour fell silent, pride shattered. He realized the galaxy had changed. His people had believed themselves the top predators born to hunt, but they had never met prey that learned. So completely, so patiently. On Night's Whisper, Keller spoke to his crew. "This isn't victory," he said. "It's a lesson." Alone. They thought strength alone made them hunters. Now they know what true hunters look like, far beyond, hidden. Human stations listened to alien transmissions. Fear, confusion, mourning. Words repeated again and again. Black ships, falling metal. We never saw them. Across alien worlds, fear spread faster than light. Soldiers and civilians alike looked up at night skies and wondered if humans watched them even. Now, Admiral Cavour, defeated and silent, sent his report to High Command. His words were heavy as stone. "We believed numbers and power would save us. We were wrong. They hunted us with silence and patience. And now we see the ashes of our arrogance." The message spread through the Empire, carried by broken ships and quiet whispers. Once, they thought humans were prey. Now, they feared the truth. Humans were something far worse. They were patient. They were merciless when threatened. And they had become the galaxy's apex predators. In the cold dark, where stars watched without care, the black ships vanished again. Silent. Waiting, ready for the next hunt. The news spread faster than any ship could travel, across alien worlds, from rich merchant stations to cold military outposts. Everyone heard what happened near the dying blue star. The great fleet, believed to be unbreakable, had been shattered by silent falling metal and unseen human ships. In crowded markets, traders whispered over steaming cups of dark broth. In military halls, young officers listened in fearful silence as older captains spoke of human cunning. Even in royal chambers, where power once felt eternal, the silence of shame and fear settled deep at the heart of the empire. In the capital's high command tower, the Elder Council gathered. Their robes were dark, marked by gold symbols of authority. Their scales were pale with age, but their eyes still burned with pride, a fear. High Admiral Orek, oldest among them, spoke first. "We must understand what happened," he rasped. "How did prey defeat hunters?" Round him, the other elders avoided his gaze. They had once believed humans were a simple problem. Loud, aggressive, but foolish. Now even their best hunters feared empty shadows. One younger elder, his voice shaking slightly, offered an answer. "Humans have become something else," he said. "They do not fight for conquest or glory. They fight only to survive. And in that fight, they have become perfect." Silence followed his words. Heavy and cold, High Admiral Orok finally nodded. "Then we must become perfect, too," he said, "or accept our place as prey." Far beyond the Empire's shining worlds, hidden in the dark between stars, human ships gathered silently. The Night's Whisper drifted next to the command vessel Ashen Spear. Inside, Captain Keller met with senior officers and analysts. Screens showed intercepted alien messages. Panic. Plans to rebuild and quiet doubts about ever defeating humans. Lieutenant Park pointed to a message. "They still see us as monsters," she said. Keller's eyes stayed on the screen. "Good," he replied. "Fear is the only thing that kept them from burning our worlds again." Another officer spoke, but some among them still want revenge. "They will try," Keller said calmly. "They'll send new fleets, better weapons. And when they do, we remind them why the dark belongs to us." The meeting ended quietly. Outside, through the observation window, The galaxy turned slowly, endless and uncaring. Later, in the crew quarters, Park sat alone, thinking. She remembered. Earth, the green forests, rain on metal rooftops, voices of children playing in crowded cities. And she remembered the first attacks. Alien ships burning colonies. Families fleeing into space. She understood why humanity had changed. Why they had embraced silence, patience, and sudden violence. The only way to survive hunters was to become a better hunter. On an alien border station, Captain Circa, once second in command of the Black Talon, gave her own report to new commanders. Her voice was tight, her eyes shadowed by memory. Never showed themselves, she said. They struck from nowhere, then vanished. Our scanners, our weapons, none of it mattered. One commander, proud and young, interrupted. They cannot be invisible forever. Circa's gaze turned cold. They don't need to be. By the time you see them, it's already over. Her words hung in the air. The commander opened his mouth, then closed it, unsure. That night, Circa sat alone in her quarters. The walls felt too close, the hum of the station too loud. In her dreams, she heard human whispers, soft, calm, promising nothing but death. Far away, the deep space, the silent edge watched alien trade routes. They didn't attack, they didn't speak. They simply watched. Letting rumors grow among alien merchants, some captains swore they had seen black shapes trailing them in the dark. Others heard whispers on empty cum channels. Few dared to travel without escort. And even then, they feared shadows more than pirates. In a distant human listening post buried in a frozen moon, analysts worked in silence. They tracked alien troop, movements, political shifts, and secret meetings. Every message added to a growing map of fear. They knew the aliens would never stop completely. Pride was too strong. But each time they tried to strike, fear would slow them. Doubt would make them hesitate. And hesitation could save millions of human lives. On the ashen spear, Keller stood before a large window, watching distant stars. Park approached quietly. "They're still building new fleets," she reported. "I know," Keller replied. "Do we strike first?" she asked. "No," Keller said softly. "We wait. Let them come. Them burn fuel, waste time, and grow. Tired. Then we show them again why hunters fear the dark." Park hesitated. "Will it ever end?" Keller's eyes stayed on the stars. "Not while they see us as prey," he said. "And not while we remember what it means to be hunted." On the alien capital world, High Admiral Orek met privately with trusted advisors. His scales were older now, his voice lower, but his mind still sharp. "We cannot defeat them by force alone," he admitted. "We must learn from them." "What?" advisor dared to ask. "And what have they taught us?" Orek's gaze darkened, that patience wins more battles than fire, and that real hunters do not roar. They wait silent until the perfect moment. The advisor nodded slowly. "Then what do? "We change," Orek said, "or we die." Elsewhere, smaller alien worlds saw protests and fear. Civilians demanded answers. Merchants demanded safer trade routes. Soldiers demanded new weapons. But behind all their words lay the same silent truth. They were afraid. And they didn't know how to stop being afraid. Human ships never announced themselves. They never showed flags of victory. They simply appeared when needed, struck once, then melted away like mist before dawn. Among alien warriors, the bravest whispered a new truth. Humans had become the apex predators, not because of strength or numbers, but because they had learned what fear truly was, and then mastered it in hidden human bunkers. Soldiers trained not to shout or charge, but to wait, watch, and strike silently. They studied alien psychology more than alien weapons. They understood that victory did not mean destroying the enemy, but breaking their will to fight. At the edge of known space, an old alien captain watched his screens. He had survived 3 human attacks, kept his ship dark, avoided grand speeches, and taught his crew caution instead of pride. One night, alone on the bridge, he spoke to the darkness. "You are there, aren't you?" he whispered. He waited. But no voice answered. Only the cold silence of space. Yet deep inside he knew the humans had heard him. And strangely, that thought comforted him more than it frightened him. Hunters respected other hunters. On Earth, under quiet skies, a child asked her father, "Are the monsters in the dark real?" The father, a soldier, returned from the Black Fleets, knelt beside her. His eyes carried memories he never spoke aloud. "Yes," he said gently. "But remember, sometimes we are the monsters too." She didn't understand, but his voice felt calm, and that was enough. In the great silence of space, black ships drifted unseen. They carried no flags, no heroes, no music of victory, only quiet resolve in the memory of worlds burned long ago. They had learned the truth of being hunted. And in that truth, they had become what even the greatest hunters feared, the apex predators. The empty station floated near the forgotten edge of space. Its metal walls were scarred by old battles and solar storms. No banners hung on its broken towers, no beacons called ships to its docks. Yet inside, lights still burned, and voices whispered through narrow halls. A small alien team had come to this place. Led by Captain Circa, they had orders to listen. Not to fight, not to hunt. Only to listen for human whispers among the dark stars. Circa walked through the stations. Cold corridors, boots echoing on rusted metal floors. Her eyes were tired, her scales dulled by years of fear and doubt. But inside, a single purpose kept her moving, to understand what haunted her people. In the old command room, a large black screen showed empty space. Technicians adjusted dials, boosted sensors, and watched for faint signals. They listened to the void itself. One young officer, his voice low, said, "Maybe they're not here." Circa didn't turn to look at him. "They're always here," she whispered, "even when they're silent." He swallowed, eyes flicking back to the screen. Far away, beyond the dying light of forgotten suns, night's whisper drifted. Its black hole blended into emptiness, engines cold and quiet. Inside, Captain Keller watched Circa's station appear on his screens. His eyes stayed calm, but the lines on his face seemed deeper. Lieutenant Park stood beside him. "They're listening," she said softly. "I know," Keller replied. "Do we speak?" Park asked. Keller hesitated. Then he nodded once. "Yes, but not with words they expect." On the station, Circa and her team listened to static and distant pulses of radiation. Then, faintly, something changed. A whisper in the noise. Not language. Not code, just a pattern that felt deliberate. The technicians froze. Circa leaned closer to the speaker, heart beating faster. "It's them," she breathed. The pattern repeated, soft as breath, then faded. Silence returned, heavy and absolute. The young officer whispered, "What do they want?" Circa closed her eyes. "For us to know they're there," she said. Far across the darkness, Night's whisper watched silently. Keller knew the message was simple. "We see you. We could strike. But today, we choose not to." On the station, Circa turned to her team. "Log everything," she ordered. "Every sound, every signal. Someday we may understand them." Hours passed. The station stayed. Quiet, Circa walked its empty halls, memories of past battles pressing on her mind. She remembered the Black Talon, its crew gone, its name now spoken only in shame and warning. She stopped near a cracked window, looking into endless dark. "What are you really?" she whispered to nothing. No answer came, only the silent turning of stars in the human ship. Keller watched her through long-range sensors. "She wants truth," he said. Park asked, "Do we give it to her?" "Not yet," Keller replied. "Truth must be earned." Elsewhere in space, alien fleets rebuilt under High Admiral Orak's command. Ships grew larger, weapons stronger. But in every crew, fear lived quietly. Crews spoke little of humans, yet thought of them always. Among them was a young alien captain named Relin. He had never seen a human ship, but his eyes carried the same shadow of doubt. In private, he confessed to his first officer, "They don't need to fight us. We're fighting our fear already." The first officer, older and harder, spat on the floor. "Cowards," he said. But R'lyeh wasn't sure anymore. He studied human tactics late at night, searching for a pattern. Each time he looked, the same answer returned: patience, silence, and the power of fear. Back on the station, Circa walked the halls after her team slept. The old metal creaked softly around her. She felt watched, yet not threatened. She whispered into the empty air, "If you hear me, why do you hunt us?" No voice replied. Yet deep inside, Circa knew the answer. Because her people had hunted humans first. In the command center of Night's Whisper, Keller watched the sensor feeds. Park spoke softly. "She's asking questions we once asked." "I know," Keller replied. His voice grew distant. "Right. Before Earth burned, we asked why they came for us. We learned hunters don't need reasons when they think they're stronger." Park's eyes darkened. "And now we remind them that prey can become hunters," Keller said. The next day, the station's sensors picked up another faint signal. This time it was clearer, a soft pulse in a pattern humans once used for rescue beacons. The technicians scrambled to decode it. Circa watched, breath caught in her chest. Then the message appeared on the screen. Just 3 words in the human tongue: "We are waiting." The room fell silent. The young officer whispered, "Waiting for what?" Circa answered softly. "For us to understand, or to make another mistake." Across space, human analysts listened to. The message wasn't only for Circa's station. It was for the entire alien command to intercept, a warning wrapped in silence. Elsewhere, in secret alien councils, old admirals argued. Some wanted to strike with overwhelming force, burn human colonies, end the fear with fire. Others warned that force had failed before and might fail again. High Admiral Aruk listened silently. Finally, he spoke. "Fear is a weapon they forged from our own arrogance," he said. "But fear can break those who wield it too. We must not fear them so blindly that we destroy ourselves." In the dark, human ships moved quietly near alien borders. They attacked nothing. They spoke no words, yet reports spread. Black ships seen among asteroids, strange signals on deep space channels. For every true sighting, 5 were false. But each rumor added to the quiet terror growing in alien hearts. One alien merchant ship, lost in a drifting debris field, sent a distress call after seeing what they believed was a black ship. Rescue crews found nothing but empty space. The crew swore they heard a human voice whisper through static, "Go home." On the station, Circa gathered her team. "Record everything," she ordered. "And tell command. They watch, but do not strike. They are waiting for something." Young officer asked, voice low, "Captain, what if we never learn what—" Circa looked into the void through the cracked window. "Then they remain hunters, and we remain the hunted." Night's Whisper drifted silently away. Engines cold, sensors active. Keller knew the message had been received. Park spoke. "It change anything?" "Maybe not today," Keller replied. "But questions are seeds. One day, they might grow into truth." In the great darkness, truth traveled slower than fear. But it traveled all the same. Elsewhere, Captain R'lyeh, restless and haunted, requested a transfer to the intelligence branch. He wanted to study humans, not just fight them. His commanders mocked him, but R'lyeh felt something deeper, the pull of truth hidden behind terror, in silent human stations buried in rock and ice. Analysts wrote reports. They didn't speak of glory or conquest, only of balance. How much fear to spread, when to vanish into silence, and to strike only hard enough to remind. They had become hunters, not by choice, but by need. And in the silence of deep space, they kept watch over those who once hunted them. Back on the station, Circa stood alone in the command room. Outside, endless darkness stretched between dying stars. She spoke softly, a whisper meant for unseen ears. "We hear you," she said. "And we are waiting too." Far away in the cold shadows, A single human ship turned gently, Ingent silent. Its captain, listening through ancient static, almost smiled. For in the great void, where words die and silence rules, even the faintest voice can change everything. The old star burned weakly over the empty world, its pale light touching broken ruins and long-dead towers. Once, this planet had been alive with alien voices and metal cities, but war had left only silence. Now the air itself felt heavy with forgotten history. In orbit above this lost place, two fleets faced each other across the void. On one side, the alien empire's new pride, the rebuilt Hunter Spear Fleet. Hundreds of warships gleamed with fresh armor, bristling with weapons. Their commanders spoke of ending the human threat once and for all. On the other side, only a few human black ships drifted silently, small, cold, and hidden in shadows. They showed no flags, sent no threats. They simply watched. On the command deck of the alien flagship Dawn of Triumph, Admiral Relin stood in silence. Younger than most who had worn this title, his eyes were tired but clear. He had read every report of past failures, every warning from survivors, every rumor of human. Cunning, his first officer, voice low, said, "They're few, Admiral. We have the power now." Relin didn't answer at once. His eyes stayed on the dark shapes among drifting asteroids. "Power means nothing," he said quietly, "if we forget what made them hunters." Far across space, in the human ship nights, Whisper Captain Keller studied the alien fleet on his screens. "They've learned caution," he murmured. "See how they hold formation? They're not charging." Lieutenant Park nodded. "But they still came." "They had to," Keller said softly. "Pride demanded it." Silence settled over the bridge. Both sides waited, listening to the pulse of distant stars. Then without warning, a message arrived on secure human channels, not in human code, but alien language. "Admiral Relin, two human commanders." "I wish to speak." Keller raised an eyebrow. Park spoke, surprised. "A trap, maybe?" Keller replied. "Not." After a long moment, Keller nodded. "Send reply. Audio only." Across the emptiness, voices met in the dark. Relin spoke first. His words were slow, each chosen carefully. "I have studied your ways, your silence, your patience. I understand why you became hunters. But I ask, how does this end?" Keller's voice came, calm as always. "That depends on you." Relin stood very still. "We could fight," he said. "You could disappear again, strike us from the shadows. And in time, we could rebuild once more." Keller's reply was quiet, almost sad. "Yes, and in time, you would fail again. You fear is a poison you fed yourselves the day you chose to hunt us." "And if we stop," Relin asked, "then the hunting ends," Keller said. "Not because you fear us, but because you finally understand." On the alien bridge, officers listened in silence, some with anger, some with hope. The words felt heavier than any weapon. Relin asked the question he had carried for years. "What did you become in the dark?" Keller's voice dropped even lower. "We became what you forced us to be. We watched our worlds burn. We buried our dead in silent graves. And in that silence, we learned patience. We learned fear, and we learned to give fear back." The last words seemed to echo through empty space. Relin closed his eyes. "So this is your final lesson?" he whispered. "No," Keller said softly. "This is yours. Hunters are not the strongest. They're the ones who know when to stop hunting." Silence returned, vast and cold. In the alien fleet, some captains whispered to strike now, to end this talk with fire. Others held back, unsure. For the first time in generations, choice stood before them. Relin looked at the shadows on his screen. "And if we turn away now?" Keller's reply came without hesitation. "Then we turn away too. No threat, no promise, only truth." Long minutes passed. In both fleets, hearts beat faster than the ticking clocks of the ships. Finally, Relin gave the order his people had never given before. "Stand down," he said. "Weapons cold. Lights dimmed across alien ships, shields lowered. Agents idled quietly. The darkness seemed to grow softer. On Knight's whisper, Park whispered. They stopped. Keller nodded, eyes never leaving the screens. Then so do we. The human ships, once predators in waiting, powered down weapons and drifted silent. The void felt different. Not safe, but less sharp, less ready to bleed. Relin spoke once more, voice steady now. Perhaps someday we will meet without fear between us. Perhaps Keller agreed. But remember what the darkness taught. I will, Relin promised. No more words were exchanged. The message ended. But its meaning stayed. In the days that followed, the alien fleet turned away from the dead world, engines burning softly but not in anger. Human black ships faded back into shadow, unseen but no longer striking. Across alien worlds, news spread. There had been no battle. Some saw it as weakness, others as wisdom. But the bravest saw something deeper, the final lesson that hunters and hunted could choose not to be either. On a quiet observation deck, Admiral Relin looked at the stars. The darkness felt the same as before, yet something inside him had changed. He knew the fear would never vanish completely, but it didn't need to control them anymore. On Earth, under cloudy skies, Captain Keller walked among memorial stones. Each marked a colony lost, a city burned, a ship never returned. His hand touched one stone, carved with no name, only the word remember. Park stood beside him. Will they keep their word? She asked. Some will, Keller replied. Some won't. But the lesson remains. And what about us? She asked softly. Keller's eyes stayed on the quiet stones. We remember why we became hunters, so we never forget the cost. In the great darkness between stars, human ships still watched, silent, patient, unseen. But their silence held less hunger now, more caution than rage. And on alien worlds, young cadets trained differently. They studied not only weapons, but patience. Not only force, but understanding. The bravest among them whispered a new truth. Fear need not rule forever. Years later, children on both sides would hear stories of black ships and silent hunters, of a day when words weighed more than weapons. Some would call it the day fear blinked. In the end, the galaxy did not change overnight. Shadows remained. Pride still burned in hearts. But somewhere in that vast emptiness, the final lesson endured. Even the fiercest hunters can choose to stop hunting. Even the deepest fear can be faced if someone dares to speak in the void. And so, in silence, deeper than words, the darkness became not only a place of fear, but a place where understanding might begin.